Hello, fellow addicts. Welcome back to Addicts Live, your internet escape from the craziness in the world. The Addicts Crew is back once again to bring you Simpsons news and Saturday smiles. I'm Alissa, your resident head addict, and I'm joined by my co-host to the north, Super Safi.
Hey, happy Saturday, everyone. Simpsons Saturday smiles from Super Safi. A lot of S's.
Silly Simpsons Saturday smiles from Super Safi. So we've got a fun show ahead, but before we get into it, I am once again reminding you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, the giveaways are going to start. We're inching ever so closer. So don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win. And as always, for those not watching this directly on YouTube, I will put a link to the subscribe button in the show notes below. So on with our show. Safi, Dairy Queen finally aired in the US after a week of delay because of the Daytona 500. And it was another amazing episode. There were a lot of feels with this one, guys. I had all the feels with this episode. So we wanted to take some time and break down the latest episode of The Simpsons. So here's the quick synopsis from Fox. And by quick, I mean quick. This was a very short synopsis from Fox. It goes, Bart finds his old teacher's diary and learns a surprising secret. Then Lisa discovers an even bigger surprise. That's it. That's all the synopsis Fox gave you. You really wouldn't get much from that. And I think I understand why, because they really wanted people to not really know what this episode was going to be about. They wanted them to go in with fresh eyes. So Safi, I'm really glad you didn't ruin it for us last week, other than saying it was a really good episode, because it was a really good episode. It was surprising. It was great. What were your thoughts, initial thoughts on that episode?
I mean, it was a wonderful Valentine's Day present to us from the writers and the creators. And I feel bad for you guys down in the States that you had to wait 1 week later. I mean, this was a long overdue episode. But to get it on Valentine's Day just meant so much more. It was an emotional day as is, and then add to that this, an episode really that's 7 years in the waiting. It was just a beautiful tribute. And like you said, when I wrote the Saturday episode reminder, I had no idea where this episode was going. Like if you look at that post, some of the comments, it's like, do you think this is going to be about Lisa's diary? Do you think this is going to be about who's the diary queen? Like, like.
Oh, it says diary. I'm thinking it said dairy. You guys, it has been a long week. I'm sorry. It is Diary Queen. You're right. There goes my degree. Rutgers University. I've done you proud. Let me tell you. Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's like, who is the Diary Queen? So for those who still haven't seen it, here come the spoilers. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The Diary Queen is Edna Krabappel. And it was just a beautifully touching episode. I mean, we could talk about all the little minutiae, like, the eagle coming up at the beginning of the episode, like, is it safe to come out yet? And little things like that, like the couch gag, kind of coinciding with the Mars rover landing and everything. Everything was just great, but it was really the emotions of this episode. I mean, as a Succession episode to the Dad Feelings Limited, when we did that recap back in January, we were talking about how there's no way that you could top this, and here we go. Like, I feel like this was at that level, if not higher. I mean, it was just wonderful. How about you? What do you think?
It was an emotional roller coaster of an episode, guys. I am losing my mind today. I'm telling you, I think I've already lost my mind.
You felt everything. It was a roller coaster. It was an elevator. It was everything.
I've been going through a lot of stuff lately, so I'm just kind of all over the place. So I apologize for saying the name of the episode wrong and just saying it was an emotional elevator. No, this episode was really good. I watched it twice. To go back, so in 2013, the fall of 2013, that's when Marcia Wallace died. And I remember it because Addicts was a thing then. I mean, we had this site, we had a presence, and I remember how sad we all were about it. you know, I remember back then that this is with Cranky's first stint with the site. And we had another writer at that time, Ryan, who went by the name of Levi. There's a lot of confusion going on. But I remember Cranky, Ryan, Bunny, and Wook and I all kind of had like a group message going on about it because it kind of rocked our world. And it's like a weird thing to say because somebody we had no idea who it was. You know, no connection other than the show and her stint on Full House. That's what I always go back to, her pinching Joey Gladstone's behind. So there is a site, and I will link it in the site. There is a post, and I will link it in the show notes about her death on our site. And this episode kind of took me back to that time, the beginnings of Addicts, when we had, you know, just a few readers, and how we all kind of felt like, well, they've got to do something on the show. They've got to do something. They've got to find a way to like close this out, like give her a proper send off. And they had already had shows in the can about it, or you know, with her recording. So they did air some Edna shows. And I remember seeing the one Bart screen, or the Bart chalkboard scene with him saying, "We'll really miss you, Mrs. K." Mm-hmm, and we all kind of thought that was going to be it. So to see something 7.5 years later, you know, this is 2013, flash forward to February of 2021, to see something that really took us by surprise, or took me by surprise. It was like, whoa, like, wow, they're finally, after 7 years. I mean, I know animation takes a while, but I didn't think it took that long. They're finally closing this out, and it was, they did it well. They gave you, like I said, all the feels. I mean, it was ups and downs. It was, you know, you were laughing. They had little cut-ins, and it really wrapped it all nice. It put it all on a nice bow. You know, without getting further into like little aspects of it, which we'll break down. But it really, it was a really good episode. It really sparked a lot of memories for me. A lot of emotions. Say that again. I'm sorry.
They did it well, but they also did it right. I mean, if you look at any interview with Al Jean, I mean, they reached out to, is it Marcia? I thought it was Marsha Wallace.
It might be more. I don't know.
Either way, but Miss Wallace's estate, and they got permission. They did compensate the estate as well. They went back through all her episodes and got her voice to make those lines that appear in the episode. And really, yeah, it's been a long time, like fall of 2013. I think it was October 2013. Mm-hmm. But it was March of 2014 where when we had the Terwilliger event with Sideshow Bob and all of his genetic corn creatures. It was that episode.
Oh, you mean the Montessori?
Well, the episode was, okay. The episode was in 2014. In March of 2014, oh, excuse me.
It's time for Safi to go be a spy again.
Roger. Okay. In March 2014, in what was it called? The Nerd Who Grew More.
Oh, The Man Who Grew Too Much, I think it was called.
Yes.
Something like that.
At the very end of that, they have a little epilogue where Ned Flanders just breaks it to us, you know, that Edna's no longer going to be in the episode, where he has that little dream sequence with him and Edna having a tango, Nelson coming going, ha ha. Ned said, you know, I miss her. And then Nelson comes and says, ha ha, I miss her too. And it was just, that touched your heartstrings a little, but like this, just like, oh God, it was just, even in death, like how she impacts Bart and the students was just great.
So let's break it down a little further, because I mean, we're talking generalities. I mean, this, guys, if you have not watched this episode, watch it. It is so good. If you haven't watched The Simpsons I mean, I know there's a lot of readers on the site who haven't said, they freely admit they haven't watched The Simpsons since season 10 because they didn't think it was good. And yes, it has had its ups and downs, but this season is so good, guys. It is so good. And if you only watch one recent episode, watch this one. It is done so well, and it'll give you all the feels. So going, let's break it all down. So you had mentioned the couch gag on this was so appropriate because they were on Mars. And it coincided with if you go back to when it, originally aired, it coincided with, originally was supposed to air rather, with the Mars rover landing. So that was pretty funny. And then, there's this opening sequence with the garage sale song, which I'm sorry, that was awful. That was probably the worst part of this whole episode. It was so bad. It was like everybody that was singing, normally like the Simpsons do a musical and they can sing. This was awful. This was really bad. This hurt my ears. I don't know. That was my take on it. I don't know if you had the same thought, but I just thought it was awful.
It was definitely it's a kind of like set the bar low to start the episode, but I did find when it comes to like West Side Story parodies, it was okay, but I really did like the fact that the Simpsons weren't in it, and then Homer comes in and he's like, "Oh, you missed one rehearsal." And then it had funny moments and funny little sights and little gags, and I like that they brought in more peripheral characters than they normally do in the songs, because typically, like most Simpsons soundtracks, when you look at the videos for them, it's the usual suspects. It's your Apu's, your Mr. Burns and Waylon Smithers and Chief Wiggum. So it was nice to see, Helen Lovejoy and Cookie Kwan and all the more peripheral characters kind of get their time in the shadow. And I guess the reason why they don't show up in that many musicals is because they can't sing. So it's
true. So Ned Flanders is having a garage sale because he has too many earthly possessions. He likes to get rid of them, and everybody kind of tries to take advantage of Ned. And there's a scene where Bart approaches Ned. There's a lot of funny little bits with that, and I really think you guys should watch it. I mean, there's a lot of little funny scenes, but there is a scene where Bart approaches Ned as he's like starting to lose his mind with all these people being there and making no money. And he's trying to buy these books, and Ned goes, "Well, you're not going to find any swear words in there. I cut them out." And he goes, and then he's selling a jar. Gives a whole new meaning to the swear jar, because he's selling a jar literally full of strips of paper with bad words on them, but like for $1. But did you see some of the bad words in there? So I took a screenshot of it. Some of the words in there: hole, hell, ball, bottom, poke, adultery, screw. I'm trying to read. There are some actual like words I'm not going to say on here because this is a family friendly show. Bottom. So I thought it was funny to see Ned's version of what swear words are. It kind of made me giggle.
No, it's kind of Ned. I love that Nelson comes by and buys it for $1, opens it and starts saying words at Ned.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. So we find out, so Bart, and that sets up the whole story. So if you're watching this, you see this sequence with the garage sale musical, and then Bart buys these books, and that kind of sets up the whole sequence. So what they end up doing is him and Milhouse set the books on fire. Bart does a skateboard jump over them. Milhouse, of course, films himself instead of Bart, classic Milhouse. And in all this mist, they find a diary. And they're kind of like, wait, whose diary is this? And they discover that it's Bart. Opens it up and goes, wait a minute, I know that red red ink, that especially the D's and F's. And Milhouse goes, smells like what the heck was it? The cigarette brand she used. I can't think of the name of it now. Yeah. And there's this great you hear, as Bart's looking at it, you hear this line. And it's Edna's voice, and it really like brings all the feels to you. And it's this. He's quoting from her diary and says, "Remember, if you can teach one kid one thing, then today will be a success." Yeah, and
beautiful.
I mean,
that's where it starts really pulling into it, and the fact that they got her voice, they pieced together old clips of her and were able to do this. She got credited as a guest star in this episode, rightfully so as well. Mm-hmm. It was just beautiful.
And it was such like a sweet moment too. Like you think back to Bart and Edna's relationship, and there were a lot of rough moments, but there were also a lot of sweet moments. And to see her say that as being a teacher when you never really feel like she loved being a teacher, was just like, wow. It was really heartfelt, and like I said, guys, all the feels.
Something about Edna episodes that really give you the feels. Like when I look back, I mean, there's just a Monday Morning Musings a couple of weeks ago that I did on Bart the Lover, an episode for which Marsha Wallace actually won an Emmy for outstanding voice in the animated series. And like there's just something about Marsha Wallace and the Krabappel character that you just root for her, and you feel like you wish she was your teacher. Like, I don't know what it is. It was just the fact that she has to deal with Bart, but she's not really giving up. But at the same time, she feels like giving up, but she wants to help. And she's just such a normal character that you could relate to, that's torn, trying to do the best, but is stuck constantly in a worse situation.
And I love, like in true Simpsons fashion, they go from something so great, like that little scene where the first time we've heard her voice in 7 years, and a really great quote to Bart and Milhouse trying to get rid of the diary, give it to the ocean. It's big enough to hide any sins. And then it cuts to Fat Tony, Legs, and Louie trying to float a corpse away, and they're going, "Why won't this corpse sink?" And the guy goes, "'Cause I ain't dead yet." So it's just true, like Simpsons fashion. And I love the quote at the end of this, because Bart and Milhouse are watching this, and Legs and Louie are like, "Shouldn't we shoot those kids, or shouldn't we kill those kids?" And Fat Tony goes, "We don't kill kids. We wait till they're 18.
Yeah, exactly.
We wait a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I was to say that's gonna take quite a while, but it was just great then when you start seeing how Bart's perception of what Edna thought of him, because Edna refers to her spiky-haired friend. Was that the correct term? Yep. Spiky-haired friend. And Bart thinks that Edna is talking about her, and her spiky-haired friend has a lot of potential. And then you get to see this little montage or vision of what Bart sees his future of, because somebody believes he has a potential. And he sees himself in the White House, and you're like, wow, Bart can actually see himself in the White House. And there he is sitting in the Oval Office in the president's chair, and his job is the official presidential chair tester.
But he still hasn't gotten a paycheck.
Yeah, how the president is with signing those checks. But yeah, it's just classic Simpsons. Like, you expect that they're going to show us Bart being president, and of course, no, he's just the presidential chair tester.
And before they even get into like more of the feels with this, they show like Bart getting the normal juicy tidbits from the diary, because after they try to get rid of the diary and they find Fat Tony, they take it and they run to the treehouse, and Milhouse goes, "You're gonna regret this, maybe not today." And Bart goes, "Okay," and he starts reading it. So the first things he discovers is Chalmers keeps his keys on the visor of his car. So of course immediately they go and steal his car. And then he also finds out what they do in finds out the code for the teacher's lounge, so he discovers what they do in the teacher's lounge, and apparently they're all telemarketers. Of course. So that's pretty funny. And then Bart discovers the sequence in a church of all places, which that scene was a little disturbing to me, but also funny, but a little disturbing. But he discovers that Edna thinks that he had potential. And of course, that causes him to kind of turn his life around, and so to speak. And you see him, this little montage of Bart where he's fixing his graffiti of "Skinner is a wiener" to "Skinner is not," adding "is not." I thought that was fun.
And of course, Skinner's got to take a picture of that and with Bart and frame it and put it in his office. But yeah, even like the little church things, there are little things in the episode that were just great. I mean, in the church, like, reading somebody else's diary in the church, that's the worst thing you could do in the church. And then the father comes by and he's like, no, that's not the worst thing you could do in the church. And then a little bit later, if you look carefully in the background, you'll see the father being arrested by the cops. Yep. And take it out.
And oddly
So,
enough, the cops are not Eddie and Lou.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know where Springfield got more cops from, but hey. Uh, and then we see Lisa and Bart. Bart actually gets an A on a test, and Lisa and Marge are like a little thrown off by this because, of course, Lisa can't let Bart do anything. And we see like the sequence of them destroying his room, trying to figure it out, and Maggie eventually makes Lisa realize to go to the treehouse because and so Lisa finds the diary and discovers that Edna was not talking about Bart. Instead, she was talking about her cat, in true Edna fashion. So, and of course, Lisa discovers this and wants to tell Bart, but then realizes how it'll crush Bart in that regard. So, she doesn't say anything, and then she develops hives, and that's a whole nother funny sequence. But Bart decides that he's going to be a good guy, and he ends up finding out from Edna's diary that Willie is lonely. So he gives Willie a bunny, and Willie goes, "I don't need this rabbit. I'll take this rabbit for me stew." And then you cut to later him making stew with carrots, and then he's feeding the bunny the carrots. The bunny's got a crown on its head. And he goes, "I'll fatten you up, and then later I'll put you in a big pot of boiling or scalding hot water and give you a bath."
No, that sequence reminded me of not How to Cook for Humans or 40 Humans. Remember that? So it was like just the whole juxtaposition, especially the way that Willie's voice presented it. You're like, oh no, what's he gonna? He's gonna hurt the bunny. Oh no, he's helping the bunny. Oh no, he's hurting the bunny. Oh no, he's helping the bunny. No. So The Simpsons, another classic. Like again, I've been putting this in the comments so many times to people who put this on like episode reminders that they stopped watching after season 10. It's like you have to start watching again, especially since season 29. Like this season, like you said, especially for those people who stopped watching after season 10. This episode in particular, this was made for you guys. Like this. Yeah, that's the beauty of Simpsons, where because you don't have to watch a previous episode to watch any other episode. So if you just watch this episode, you'll be all caught up. I mean, you have to know Edna died, but other than that, you'll be all caught up.
And so we mentioned Lisa had gotten hives because she's hiding this secret and eats away at her. And I love the scene where she goes to Hibbert, and Hibbert goes, "I could send you just to therapy, but why?" What does he say? He says, "But why fix what you can medicate?" And he goes, "I'm going to prescribe you chewable Xanax. Can I get some chewable Xanax, please? I need some." So
and then he got his hat on and everything.
Tricksterdone. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
True Hibbert fashion. I mean, it cracked me up. So Bart, with all this newfound potential that he feels like he has, he decides he wants to enter the spelling bee, and Lisa's like, "Oh my God, he's gonna make a fool out of himself." I mean, there's some other stuff that happens. We're not gonna like break everything down for you guys. You do have to watch the episode, but the gist of it, Lisa pulls him off stage and unfortunately breaks the news to him, like crushes his whole world. He thought that Mrs. Krabappel thought he had potential and he was going to, be something great. And really she was talking about her cat, and it just destroys him. I mean, I feel like it would destroy anyone. I mean, you find out something like that. So Bart goes up to his treehouse and just is devastated. Marge brings him food, and he's like, "Mom, if you try to help me, I'm going to go over the edge." And you just see him sitting there so sad, so like upset and distraught by all this. And then enter Flanders, because Flanders makes everything better. And I like the line where Flanders says, "I understand you've been reading Edna's diary." And Bart goes, "Yeah, I'm really sorry. I wish there was something in the Bible about forgiveness." And Flanders goes, "Well, curiosity is the devil's handiwork. I don't have an issue with that." He goes, "That's why I don't look down in the shower." I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then, so up until this point, everything we had from Edna, we had the one scene with her voice where it wasn't her talk. We didn't actually see her animation. We had just seen the writing and her voice. And Ned decides to make Bart feel better by showing him a video. And now we actually see Edna, like she's come back. Like she's back after 7 years. There she is, fully animated and talking. And, the Flanderses are trying to make a decision about leaving Springfield, and Ned's going around the table, and the boys are like, I don't like Mr. Simpson peeing in our bird bath.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so he gets to Edna, and Edna, he goes, we can't leave unless everything's unanimous. And Edna goes, and in her voice, this was so just touching, says, and I'm trying to get this quote exactly right, guys, says, I have to stay in Springfield because boys like Bart Simpson need me. Sweet, misunderstood boys who just need someone to recognize their basic goodness. Actually, hand wrote notes this time, guys. That's trapped inside them, and it's desperately trying to get out. So, I mean, wow. Just like...
It was just
wow.
beautiful. And then to wrap it up in all a nice bow, they had a nice little montage of Edna with some great scenes from her, like from Bart the Lover and other episodes.
Well, there was another point, too, that really... I always have felt bad for Flanders. I mean, Maude and then Edna, and he's always just trying to be so good, and you can tell that he's, got so much sadness in his heart. And he takes the diary back from Bart, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to read it. And then he gets home and he ends up opening it, and he finds from a line from Edna that says, now that and this Marcy did not read this. This is not Ned's voice. This is Ned reading it. But it says, now that I've been married to Ned for a year, he's made my life a living dream come true. And that's how it ended. And it was just like, wow. Like, if you didn't have the feels before, I mean, what an emotional roller coaster. And then they had the ending montage where they finally kind of wrapped it all up, put it in a nice bow, and gave Edna the proper send-off, with the final scene being the Bart chalkboard scene where it says, we'll really miss you, Mrs. K. It was so good.
It was just absolutely beautiful. Like, I mean, we gave the Dad Feelings Limited like an A+. Like, this was off the charts, like A++. It's... When it comes to episodes post season 10, this is instantly a top 10 for me. Like, it was just right out there.
And it's just because of the history, the fact that they finally did a proper goodbye for Edna. After 7.5 years, we finally got that proper goodbye, and it just was like, wow. And the other thing is, I can't help but feeling like it almost feels like the show really is ending, because they're wrapping so many little loose ends up and tidying up so many storylines. But I feel like a show like The Simpsons shouldn't just end. I feel like there should be, like, people should be prepared, but maybe that's what the writers want. They don't want people to know that it's going to end. They just want to put out good stories. Mm-hmm. But that's it really, and I am hoping I'm wrong. I really am hoping that there's a season 33. I think as of this, there's no official announcement about a season 33. I think there were some notes about, potential Treehouse of Horror next season and things like that. But I think it just feels like this may be it with some of these storylines. I don't know. Do you feel the same way?
I didn't until you just brought it up. And,
sorry.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping you're wrong.
Me too.
Like, your theory is very sound and has a lot of merit to it. So that's a little disheartening. So yeah. But I mean, now that it's with the House of Mouse, I'm really hoping that it's not the end. In fact, I feel like there's the potential for it to grow. Like, I mean, you've seen what they've done with all their other entities with Marvel and like all the little spin-off shows that they're doing. Like, I mean, they could have so many. Like, I would love to see a comic book guy and Kamiko spin-off, or like just a little mini series here and there. I'm not talking about like a full 30 season series, but little spin-off shows, one-offers for the purple characters, kind of have little stories kind of intertwining there. But as far as the main Simpsons ending, you're right. Like, I mean, they are tying up all loose ends, and I mean, this was the first, in my opinion, like the first real episode where they came back and closed the book on someone who passed away earlier. Like, I mean, they never had anything like this with Phil Hartman or.
Well, I mean, Edna was such a important part of the show. I mean, she was, she wasn't the Simpsons, but she certainly was in the same class as like Flanders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't an immediate family member, but she certainly was like just below it. I mean, it was.
Yeah, like I would consider her a regular voice. Yep. Like she wasn't someone who was a guest star that would show up from time to time, like say like a Kelsey Grammer, Sideshow Bob, or others of that merit that who've like come and gone a few times, John Lovitz and so forth. But she was someone who's been there many episodes and is probably as close to regular as you can get on the show. So
for me, I mean, I agree with the sentiment about Comic Book Guy and Kamiko. Like, it felt like the Dad Feelings Limited was like setting you up for a spinoff. But this episode, there's no spinoff potential for this. Like, this episode really just felt like they were tying up a loose end. And maybe that's why it gave me more feels. I mean, seeing Edna reliving fall of 2013 really, for me, because of this site, brought back a lot of emotions in that regard, like things that were happening at that time and all kinds of other stuff. And like, I vividly remember when it happened, as weird as that sounds. I was at, for those who have been following this site for a long time, you know that I'm not like the biggest Simpsons fan. Like, that's Wookie, that's Safi, that was Bunny. Those are people who were like huge, like know everything about it. I watched the show. I liked the game. I like writing about it. That's what I did. That's why that's why I don't do Where Did That Come From? Because I don't know. I mean, I end up texting Saf or Joe. Yeah, I'm like, well, you guys tell me. I don't know. But I like vividly remember when she died, and it was like, as weird as this sounds, I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and it was just like, wow. And the five of us at that point, because again, it was Pat was on the site and another guy named Ryan, and then Bunny and Wookie. We were in a group text about it. Somebody should write about this. We need to cover this. We need to talk about this. This is like devastating. And I just remember all those emotions from that. And that's what this stirred up for me. And it was a really weird feeling, because this is the first instance when like an episode actually triggered an Addicts memory. So that was kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, it was so good, guys. I mean, if you haven't watched this show, watch this episode. I mean, I don't care how long it's been, watch this episode. And I will link to the post we did, assuming I can find it. I know we've had some stuff that got pulled off and everything, but hopefully I can find it. I will link to that in the show notes, assuming I can find it, because it was a fitting tribute to Edna. But yeah, anything else you'd like to add, Saf?
No, I mean, I think, we've touched on it a lot. I mean, it's very emotional episode. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, it was really good. Normally we like to do reader comments and share your thoughts on this, but in this instance, I think we're going to leave it at that. You guys can share your thoughts in the comments for the video, and we'll probably touch on them again at a later date. But I think that's going to do it from us. We're going to wrap up the Diary Queen, not the Dairy Queen. Maybe I just wanted ice cream. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the Addicts community. And we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. Bye-bye, guys.